Welcome to Flywheel, your number one source for everything Frax, DeFi, and everything in between. If you want to know what's going on in the world on chain, you've come to the right place. This is DeFi Dave here with capital K. We're here to help you harness the power of the flywheel. And Kiet, we had on Green Jeff today, and honestly, the first thing I said to you after we filmed was, what a renaissance man, what a Web3 renaissance man. I can't think of another person with such depth of knowledge in both DeFi, DAOs, and NFTs. We hit not just each one, but we hit each one in such detail, in such nuance. What do you think, Kiet?
Dude, I think there are very few people who you could have a conversation with, like a 45-minute in-depth conversation with about NFTs, and then transition almost seamlessly into DeFi, and then from there just segued into DAOs. I was very impressed with this guest today, and thank you, Green Jeff, for joining us. And I'm very happy how he actually was very open in how his product Vesper works. Obviously that's my favorite part when talking about DeFi.
Yeah, I think my favorite part was him talking about the philosophy of the metagame, and actually what it means, and only a few people should actually play the metagame, which we go into a lot within the podcast. I also really enjoyed his grand thesis of DAOs, because I haven't heard that one before, and you can tell that he's thought about it a lot, and we get to that more at the end of the podcast. But overall, I think this is definitely an evergreen episode, and I'm excited to look back to see if our predictions about the yield on chain are right.
Yep. We also talked about the real yield of ETH staking and how that would elevate. Yeah, how that would elevate the yield across all of DeFi. So I'm excited to see that play out as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're gonna get this started, but before we do, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. We finally have over 500 subscribers. Thank you to everyone that has supported us throughout this journey. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Telegram at Flywheelpod. You can follow me on Twitter at DeFi Dave.
You can follow me at 0x_K. And let's dive right into the episode.
All right. Yeah. Yo, Green Jeff, thanks for coming on. Dude, you're one of the most native on-chain degens I know. And I say on-chain because you have your hand in everything. You have your hand in DeFi, you have your hand in NFTs, you're really interested in DAOs and DAO governance and a little bit of a pirate stuff per se. And, every time I talk to you, I feel like I learn something new. So dude, super excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I have no other hobbies is my secret.
You don't have any other hobbies, but hey, you have swag. I mean, look at that robe. Look at that sunglasses. Where did this look come from? Where did the Green Jeff persona come from?
Yeah, this by accident, really. I bought this robe because I wanted to have it, and I filmed a TikTok in the robe, and the TikTok blew up. And so now a few times a week I yell into the camera while I'm wearing this robe, or I actually recently got another different colored Versace robe. People are saying, if you're so rich, why do you wear the same thing every episode? So every TikTok. So I had to switch up the wardrobe a little bit.
Yeah, how does TikTok compare to crypto, Twitter, and media? What do you find blows up on there, and what do you find TikTok people are interested in?
I would say the biggest difference with TikTok is it's so driven by algorithm, attention, consensus. You really have to cater to the lowest common denominator to have a good video that blows up, which means you get consistently the worst signals out of TikTok. You're only gonna get fed the shit coins at the Pico top because that's when people are hyping it up the most. I'm kind of counter brand on TikTok, or counterculture, in that I just I talk about things that I'm knowledgeable about, and I also explain things that's bullshit that's going on in TikTok. And some people like that, but it's definitely a more. I'm kind of capped on how high I can go on TikTok, which is fine. I'm not looking to sell out. I'm not looking to shill baby Elon Dogecoin like some of my counterparts on TikTok. But
do you see Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, that was it. Continue.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you see TikTok more similar in its algorithm to Twitter and like kind of how outrage always like reaches the most impressions, or is it more similar to YouTube in terms of like, oh, it's video, oh, it's like lowest denominator content making it to the top, or is it some mix of both, or in its own lane?
Oh, that's hard. I think I would have to say it's more like YouTube. It it you're best off if you're just circle jerking what everyone else is, because the algorithm knows what people want. The algorithm knows that someone doesn't want to have someone telling them they're wrong and their investment's bad and they made a bad choice. They want to like get an endless stream of your shitcoin is the best shitcoin. And so I think in that regard, it's very unlike crypto Twitter. I don't really spend much time on YouTube. Maybe that's how YouTube is. Maybe it's its own flavor of mental illness.
Yeah, it's funny because like with TikTok, me and Tibble Claire have been producing videos on there to get more educational content, very basic content about Frax on there, like for TikTok, but also put it on YouTube and Twitter. But yeah, like TikTok's like real, you gotta go real basic. Like we gotta like dumb down the content, not like dumb down, but yeah, dumb down the content even more so. And like the thing is with stuff like stablecoins and Frax, it's complicated. It's hard. You need like a lot of knowledge, not just about like crypto, but about money in general. It just doesn't really, it's not really compatible with like TikTok at the moment right now. I guess like, what's your take on like how like understanding Frax and like people like trying to learn about it?
Yeah, so I do my best to take people off of TikTok. You can't explain stablecoin theory in a 60-second video. Moreover, your TikTok should be 15 seconds. Your best viewage is if you're under 15 seconds. You can't elegantly explain anything in 15 seconds. What I try to do is allude to some deeper concept that I want to talk about and then say, I actually wrote an article on Substack, links in bio, go check it out, go subscribe. If you want to hear more stream of consciousness type stuff, follow me on Twitter. I'd like to have a YouTube at some point. There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but I really try to like find a new audience on TikTok and then take them off TikTok, which the algorithm probably doesn't like that.
So like TikTok's like your funnel.
Exactly.
So instead of OnlyFans, you take them to Substack.
Maybe I should do an OnlyFans, like a trading OnlyFans. Someone should make that.
Yeah.
Like modularized private groups.
I mean, I feel like you pretty much got the outfit for both, OnlyFans, if you want to take it that way too.
I could keep them guessing. Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say, like, the big thing with TikTok, it's all about, with anything, it's about stories and narratives. And with TikTok, it's these bite-sized narratives that confirm biases and beliefs. And that's what people are looking for in the shortest amount of time. And so, like, it's hard to explain things that don't have a narrative that are complicated. It takes like a different medium, like a podcast, to explain that.
Yeah. Like I can like just think like from my own experience, my best engagement is like, I just sold this stupid JPEG for tens of thousands of dollars. Fuck you guys. And all the NFT bros are like, look at how much money we're making with NFTs. We're gonna be rich. And that was like at the pico top of NFT summer last year, which of course anyone who was using that video as a reason to get into more NFTs. Granted, I was saying I'm dumping on you guys, but if someone's like, "There's so much money I'm getting in," that's when they're worse off. But that's when the most people want to hear about it.
Yeah. Speaking of, I was there with you NFT summer last year. I remember like getting back to LA and like Bright Moments was popping off and like all the meetups were popping off and like everything was kind of like bubbling under the surface. Like, do you have any reflection of NFT summer in LA last year and kind of the evolution of NFTs since?
That's a very good question. I have a lot of strong opinions about like normie NFT culture, or like the LA scene, at least where I was around, where you were around, was very much catered towards being beginner friendly, onboarding people, bringing people in. That's not necessarily where my views are. However, I will say that it's very, very, very hard to curate good, engaged, sticky communities. And there was something that, some people were doing a good job in bringing people in and keeping them around, converting them. Uh, maybe a real life element of the NFT culture is a big sticking point. I really haven't spent much time in like 8th Fest land or like VCon or like, a lot of those like very NFT bro centric events. Um, because I don't really vibe with that. But I think there's something to be said about, for the people who do want that, having the just different mediums to engage and interact and like go beyond JPEGs on a screen, I think is probably a really powerful community building type thing. I think it's stuff that there's no reason why we can apply it to the Frax universe. You're talking just before about Fraxless meetups in LA. I mean, why not?
Why not? Yeah, there's definitely a community out here. I met like quite a few people, so who knows? Maybe something this week. But yeah, I guess like thinking of like in terms of like Frax and onboarding people, like in meetups, like I've hosted a few meetups, at different conferences, kind of like side events and stuff, and they've been like definitely growing. It's definitely promising. The thing is with like Frax meetups, it's definitely more like the intermediate, advanced DeFi user and DeFi participant. It's because to find Frax, you actually have to do your research. It's not like Frax is like out there in the open and you're seeing like a million threads about it, or you're seeing talked about it a lot. You really have to dig deep and find it. And like once you do, you have to like put in the work and do the homework. But I find that when people do put in the work and do the homework, that they like feel like, oh wait, like I finally found something here, and they get rewarded with like, wait, like they're actually building something here. And I think it's like really important to like once they have that eureka moment, it's just like, finding like the community, like us, like finding this podcast and finding like other people to talk about it with. Because if there isn't like an other to like bounce your ideas off of, then people kind of just lose interest and they question themselves. I guess like what, from like your like vantage point in crypto land, like what have you seen about Frax, and like have you noticed similar things about Frax?
I think the biggest takeaway I have in my time in and around the Frax ecosystem is that Frax, part of the culture, North Star guiding pillar, is the notion of cooperation, composability, having adjacent, similar, or just cohesive projects that could work with Frax, making sure they do work with Frax. I think that's the best scalable way to grow a community because, for example, I'm into Frax through my engagement on behalf of Vesper. I probably wouldn't be able to dedicate nearly as much time to Frax as I do if I didn't have that anchor through Vesper. Similarly, you need to have a lot of people internally that are really engaged and really reactive to people who are coming in and keeping them engaged, keeping them happy, keeping them busy. If you instead export that responsibility to these other communities, each community can do their own work with their own, very core members. And those very core members are now a part of the Frax community too, by proxy. There's no escaping it. And I think that is a really great strategy that will continue to work into the future.
The cross-pollination strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the bear market when like people just aren't around anymore, right? A lot of those people from LA Summer are no longer doing crypto. Being able to
Kiet, what are your thoughts?
No,
Sorry.
I'm just
go
kind of
ahead.
No, I'm just really impressed by Green Jeffs, how he's almost like, ambidextrous both on the NFT side and also the DeFi side. And it kind of led me to think like how many of these folks are out there that are like, super deep into NFTs, flipping and, doing all that stuff, but also yield farming and degenning everywhere. Like Jeff, from your experience, have you seen like these two groups overlap a lot? or not really?
I mean, the answer is definitely not really. In my case, I'm very selective in terms of the types of stuff that interests me, and I feel like I have the background to understand. And for me, it's DeFi, DAO, NFT. I don't really do anything in the crypto space beyond those three. I respect privacy coins. I don't know how they work, and it's out of my repertoire. I respect oracles and bridges and a lot of these other stuff, but it's out of my wheelhouse. And I really try to concentrate my efforts into the stuff I know, the stuff I like, the stuff I'm passionate about, and ignoring the meta game, which is I have strong opinions about the notion of hopping across the different metas. I'm sure there's a lot of people
Let's
like
hear
me.
'em. Let's hear the opinions on the metagame. Like, do you disagree with the metagame thesis? Would you rather just like stick with like one thing that you're passionate about and
Yeah.
believe in?
I think for 99.9% of people, even just the subset of people who are in crypto, the metagame is a terrible strategy. Referencing what Kobe had put out, like, I don't know, maybe close to a year ago now. Kobe, I'm going to go on a little bit of a League of Legends tangent, if that's okay. Because in the article,
Jeff,
Kobe,
before you jump in, please explain what the metagame is for the audience at home.
yeah, sure. So the metagame is the notion that if you take a step back and you look at crypto from the meta, meaning what is hot, what is popular, what are people into. So for example, right now there is a free NFT mint meta. There's a lot of projects that are coming out, and their whole thing is free NFT mints. Go ahead, mint it, do whatever you want with it. The notion of the metagame strategy is being cognizant of what's popular, what's hot, and jumping into it. So when GameFi was really hot, 6-9 months ago, you should have been doing GameFi. Now NFTs are kind of hot, jump back into NFTs. Privacy coins might be coming up with stuff going into Tornado Cash, jump into privacy coins. I don't know if, Kobe didn't invent the metagame, but he popularized the conversation around that as a trading strategy, and he likened it to playing League of Legends. League of Legends is a game where you have hundreds of different characters. It's highly competitive, and each character has different stats that are buffed or nerfed depending on how strong the character is. And with that, and with the items changing as well, there's different meta games in League of Legends. If you always play the character that's really powerful, or a playstyle that's really powerful, you can achieve a higher rank. You can play more competitively. I think it's terrible advice for most every person, for the same reason why Kobe is not good at League of Legends. Kobe is the 0.1 or the 0.01% of people who are super into crypto 24/7. They have the ability to command different metas as they pop up. Almost everyone that's not the case for. In the same way, Kobe doesn't play League of Legends all day long. He's a very low rank. Where he's at on the ladder is very low. He's silver, which is trash. I also play League of Legends, and I have only for the past decade played one character. I don't play that much, but every season I can get up to a pretty high rank. I can get to platinum or diamond only playing one character because I'm really good at the character. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I can always be competitive with this one character, this one play style that I'm really into. I think that's a much more pragmatic strategy, and it's a much more valuable strategy, with the understanding that people have limited time, people have limited resources. Find certain niches within crypto that you prefer and put all your energy into it. Don't try to hop around and chase each pump as it's happening. The people who are able to do that well, they can earn. That's probably the best way to earn the most money, but the risk reward is not there.
Wow, thank you for that. That's an excellent explanation of the metagame, which I just kind of view as like if we take a step back, step outside the box, and kind of this like God's eye view of the crypto chessboard per se. It's like, what is going on? What are the trends happening? Is this trend actually a thing? And the thing is with trends, it's like it's not actually a thing until it is. Like sometimes people think they're playing a metagame, but then like it's like boom, like it ends up like burning out before it could actually be something. Or like push something aside, and then like boom, it's like the biggest thing out of nowhere. Like honestly, couldn't agree more with your point of like people have limited time, and very few people are at the level of like me, you, Kiet, Kobe, or whoever else like whose life day in and day out is living on chain. And so for most people, like that's why it's like most people should not be active traders. Most people should just like hold BTC and ETH. That's like the long-term like meta game most people should be playing if like they want to like be in crypto. But like if they like want to like work and like be a part of like the community, like find like their find their like little niche, whether it's like for us it's stable coins, for you I guess you're playing like a few different meta games right now, like you said, DeFi, DAOs, and NFTs. Maybe for other people it's bridges. For other people it's like infrastructure. Like there's so many like different routes or DAOs, like there's so many different routes people can go on. And the thing is, it's not written out yet. There's not like, oh, this is the crypto career book, choose your path. It's like, no, you got to like dig deep and find it.
Absolutely.
But Jeff, I got a question for you though. Like, how would you say recognize when you are playing the wrong meta game? Like, let me give you an example of, say, like DeFi has been bleeding against ETH for like forever, right?
Yeah.
And if you've been in DeFi and you just held, a DeFi coins and that was like your game and you kind of stuck to it, down bad, down horrendous.
Yeah. My sushi
attacked.
bags are my sushi bags are down bad. That's for sure.
No, I'm asking for a friend,
Yeah. I've been a perma bull as long as I've been in crypto, almost a decade now, and I think it is not so much of a problem as long as you understand that it's going to come back around eventually. I have 0% doubt in my mind that DeFi does not have a bigger future than what it is right now. The just people using DeFi there is a non-negligible number of people using DeFi at a non-negligible amount of money, doing things they can't do in the traditional system, doing things better than what they can do in the traditional system, having access where they couldn't before. That's unstoppable. And so for me, I'm happy to keep averaging and accumulating and investing my time into DeFi, even though it's been bleeding for 18 months now, or whatever the crazy number is.
It's been years. I feel like it's been bleeding, to be honest. It's been literally years. Yeah. I mean, it's ironic because DeFi was the beginning of on-chain activity with DeFi Summer. It paved the way for NFTs and DAOs. And now it's kind of, in terms of both like mainstream attention and price, like it's kind of gotten left behind in relative terms to ETH, which is like pretty like ironic. Like I definitely consider myself a DeFi romantic like yourself. Like I do think like this is just a start. It's going to, I think the whole world is going to be built on these DeFi rails, and I always tell people like I'm waiting for the day not to have like wraps like agreements that are like put on chain through some oracle, and like I'm waiting for the like agreements to be actually NFTs and that they're signed, and then you can do like interesting stuff on chain. We're just not there yet. But it will happen. It's just like a matter. But it will happen, and then but it's just a matter of like, when and like certain just like things. First, slowly, all at once. Like you got to be patient, but then when it happens like so fast. It's like a rapid, or like going downstream or something like that.
If I were to have an example of like all things happening at once, would be like what happened with Sudo Swap and Xmon, right? Like I think Owen and the gang has been building Sudo since like last September, just quietly behind the scene, just
forever,
heads down building, forever building, right? I remember talking with them last September, but then out of nowhere, Sudo launched, and then Xmon's price today is just like ludicrous, right? I feel like people are finally picking up on the meta of like, hey, NFT AMMs are like a thing. But yeah, Jeff, I want to hear your thoughts on that, like this new narrative of NFT AMMs.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts.
Let's hear them.
Yeah, I mean, so the debate right now, just at least what's taking the
Mm-hmm.
front and center stage is it okay to bring in someone like a SudoSwap that's not paying royalties to artists? I think the answer is yes, it's fine. The NFTs that are traded on SudoSwap are altcoins with JPEGs. They're dominated by their floor price. They're traded against a chart. The liquidity is pretty fungible, at least at the lower tier NFTs in a collection. No reason why traders are getting knocked 5, 7.5, 10% total. No reason why OpenSea gets 2.5% of every transaction or 2% on Lookshare. The debate to me seems silly because you have all these people who are really into artist one-of-one NFTs saying we need to pay artist royalties. You don't trade one-of-ones on SudoSwap.
Yeah.
You can't. It's for collections that are built around the notion that there is some at least somewhat liquid floor, meaning that you might have rare pieces in a collection, but most of them track around the same value. The value of the NFT is much more so access to the community, the perks, whatever, not because my monkey has a bandana instead of, which is totally different from the art scene. No one is trading one-of-one artwork as fungible tokens, even if it's within the same artist. Like for example, I'm a really big fan of Robness. I've been a fan of him for ages and ages. And he does some one-of-ones. He does some open editions. He does some limited editions. No one's trading Robness NFTs like shitcoins. Each piece is unique to that piece. So I think at SudoSwap, they've done some really cool things. I've been a big fan of NFTX for a while now. I hold some of their Floor DAO token. I've been involved in some of the floor votes. I'm an NFTX user. I've been into NFTs as technology since pretty much the beginning, and it's a technology, and there's a lot of different applications. And I think it's great that SudoSwap is making advances in elevating what you can do with the technology.
Yeah, like the fact that they decided like, yo, we're gonna cut out royalties altogether and like cut out the OpenSea fee whatsoever. It kind of like, it took some like real like first principles thinking to come to that realization. It was like, wait, this is like actually taking like a significant amount out for traders. And once you come back around and say like, wait, these are just altcoins with pictures on them, like that, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I hate giving OpenSea 2.5% every trade. For the service you get, I think it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts artists who are most dependent on their royalties. I don't think it changes anything for them.
And for our viewers at home, can you explain how SudoSwap works and how it's different compared to like a traditional marketplace like OpenSea or LooksRare?
Yeah, so in high level terms, it basically refungibilizes the NFTs. So essentially what that means is if you have an NFT in a collection, if I have a Bored Ape, for example, my Bored Ape has a number, Bored Ape 1234. It has specific traits to it. Basically, what SudoSwap does is it allows someone who holds the NFTs to pool them with other NFTs. Now we have a pool of 100 Bored Apes, and I don't own Bored Ape 1234 anymore. I just own one Bored Ape out of this set of 100. And if you say that all of these NFTs that have basically been wrapped into the SudoSwap market, they're all one and the same, then you can have an AMM that looks more like Uniswap or SushiSwap, where people can trade up or down. They can trade fractions. You can have a price curve. You don't have to trade individually with the one NFT, with the one collector. You can access the global liquidity all at once.
Wow. So it makes NFTs as fungible as tokens.
It
Basically, with this,
refungies the non-fungies.
it refungies the non-fungies. And like when people like put them in the liquidity pool, do they get like ERC20 LP tokens back?
You know,
Or is it an NFT because it?
I don't know the mechanics around SudoSwap in particular. If it's like NFTX, which I'm more familiar with, then basically it wraps the NFT into an ERC20 token, and then that token can be traded like any other token. And if you buy a fraction of that token, you're buying a fraction of the NFT.
Do you think SudoSwap is a correct direction forward for the NFT space as a technology, as a function of NFTs? Because I remember that was one of the biggest complaints of NFTs is like their illiquidity. Do you think this is a right step forward, or is it just more slot machines in the casino?
I think it's the right direction for one specific application of NFTs, which is more engaging shitcoins, really. It's, I think the notion of participating in tokenized communities is really cool in social investing. People since the beginning of time have always organized themselves into groups, and those groups have value, and being able to assign liquid ownership to that opt-in participation to the community, I think it's one of the biggest selling points of NFTs, but it's not all NFTs. I don't think SudoSwap is going to make a tangible impact on the other stuff that NFTs are doing. NFTs as a replacement for content creators that alleviates them from traditional models that are predatory. I don't think SudoSwap infringes upon those other build-outs. I think the NFT space can be both.
Interesting. So SudoSwap is good for this one part of NFT land, which is these collections where all the pieces of art are close to the floor price, but isn't necessarily great for, let's say, creators that have a creator NFT for one-of-one pieces. Like, now it makes more sense why like there's no royalties then, because it's like there's no it's like all coins, shit coins don't have royalties to the person that deployed the contract. It's like it's the same thing.
Yeah, and like even if a creator's having a collection, if the collection's more focused around, okay, redeem this NFT for X experience or for different, if each NFT has more stuff assigned to it, that hinders the ability to refungi the NFT because, for example, if I have an NFT of a creator I like and they say that if you hold an NFT once a month, you can FaceTime me or play a game of League of Legends with me or whatever. And I want to own the NFT because I want to do stuff with the creator. I don't want to put my NFT into this pool and potentially when I take it out, I'm going to take out an NFT that's already been redeemed. I'm going to want to make sure I keep my NFT and get my perks and privileges. SudoSwap isn't defeating that market. It's a different set of use cases.
Got it. Okay. I want to take a step back from. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, you go ahead.
I just want to take a step back from the NFT talks and kind of refocus around like DeFi. Could you share a little bit more about your strategy role over at Vesper and how is it like getting involved in like a DeFi DAO?
So I am head of strategy at Vesper Finance, which is a DeFi yield aggregator, which basically means you deposit your different major Ethereum tokens, stable coins, wrap Bitcoin, Frax, and we have these non-custodial smart contract pools that take everyone's funds and deploy it to different strategies where it can go out and earn yield. So for example, we have a Frax pool where you deposit Frax tokens. It wraps those into LP positions on Curve, stakes them in Convex, and then auto compounds the rewards, the CRV, the CVX payout, swaps it into more Frax, and then compounds it into the position. Our focus in particular is that all these projects are figuring out ways to be more capital efficient, to offer more for their users. And Vesper is kind of like a DeFi yield engine that other projects can plug into. When we first launched, we launched upon this notion of let's make DeFi easy for everyone. Um, and with that, we had a focus on really conservative, sustainable strategies. One click set and forget, deposit your funds and you can leave them there till the end of time if you want. Multiple audits for each strategy. We wanted to make the most secure, bulletproof, easy, sleep at night yield experience that we could offer. What we found out is that there is not really a market of DeFi made easy. Whoever is out there and has a MetaMask wallet and is comfortable with using DeFi, they're going to chase the high yields. I'm the head of strategy. I'm the one who picks our strategy. I go and I chase the high yield. What we built is much better for projects that, okay, how do I up our APY? How do I do more with our treasury? How do I offer the next level of service to our users without compromising on security, on, no one wants, the worst case scenario is your project, there's an exploit or something, funds are lost. And Vesper is a great option for different protocols, entities, exchanges, whoever, to pass on better yield on top of the TVL they already have, without having to introduce too much more smart contract risk, possibility of loss. And so one of the projects we've worked with is Frax. We have a pool, like I said, where you deposit Frax tokens, and it's basically like an on-chain savings account. You hold the Frax tokens, it goes out, it earns you yield, it compounds. It's good for the Frax protocol because we're taking yield earned and we're converting it into more Frax. We're supporting the peg, we're buying back Frax. And with that, we have a gauge that earns FXS tokens. So just like how they have emissions going to Uniswap pools and Aave and all these different ones, they have emissions going towards the Vesper pool. That pool is also integrated into Convex. So Convex holds a bunch of locked Frax shares. They can use that to boost the TVL so it gets more earnings. And the result is we have this product that is now integrated into a few different layers. You deposit to Vesper, you earn Frax tokens, you also earn VSP tokens, you also earn FXS tokens, and then you can plug it into Convex and you can double the FXS and the VSP you earn. We also have bribes that we're doing with Pitch Foundation each week. So it's a product that we built once, and now it's integrated into all these different protocols. And that's really the angle we're going for is, we might not be able to convince someone to take lower yield with us versus higher yield on whatever Shiba Inu, market, whatever, lending, future, perpetual, whatever. But what we can say is, okay, you're already a user in this other protocol. Let's supercharge your experience a little bit. I believe we are, with all of those different levels, we're the best, at least the best no impermanent loss APY on Frax at the moment. I think you get right now 12%, which is pretty good. And we're able to offer that because it's not just Vesper, it's Vesper plus all these other stuff built on top and alongside it.
Interesting. So you guys have really plugged into the Frax ecosystem, which is awesome to see, whether it's with Pitch, doing vote incentives, or with Convex having having the gauge supercharged on there. Mm-hmm. You're doing all the right things to be a positive sum player within Frax.
Knock on wood.
So knock on wood. So what are some things you would like to do in the future with Frax?
Yeah. So we have a few things in the pipeline. The most immediate one is one of our other products under the Vesper umbrella. So what I described is our flagship Grow product, which is deposit your coin, it goes out and earns yield, it compounds into more yield. We have another product called Vesper Earn, which takes your yield and converts it to another output. So for example, I hold a lot of ETH and I want to have like a stable operating income. I deposit ETH. My ETH earns yield. The yield is converted to USDC or Frax or DAI or whatever. And I get a stream of stablecoin. Something really cool that Earn enables is it's kind of like a wrapped yield bearing token on whatever the deposit is. In the normal grow pools, or like what you would see with an LP token or a Yearn Vault token, is the value of the deposit share will increase over time as you're compounding. With an Earn token, it always tracks 1-to-1. I deposit my ETH that earns stablecoin. I can always withdraw it for my 1 ETH deposit voucher. I can always withdraw it for 1 real ETH. What that enables is this really cool new primitive of natively yield farming AMMs. So if you take that wrapped ETH token, let's say the wrapped ETH token is earning Frax, and you pair the wrapped ETH deposit voucher with Frax on an AMM, now all your ETH is earning yield while it's sitting there, and it's earning yield and it's adding Frax. So the liquidity providers are earning yield while they're also earning trading fees. There's arbitrage every time the yields realize. There's also arbitrage if people want to go in and out of the pool versus our Vesper pools. The wrapped ETH token might not always trade 1-to-1 with real ETH, but it's always worth 1-to-1 with real ETH. And with that, we are launching a test case with Saddle Finance, which is a curve-like AMM stable swap. And what we're launching is a pool where you deposit Frax tokens and you earn Frax base pool LP tokens on Saddle Swap. And so what we're doing with Saddle is we're making a new meta pool, which is 50% of this wrapped Frax token, 50% of the Frax base pool they already have. And so basically now you have still a stable swap pool. Wrapped Frax is always worth 1 Frax, but now 50% of your LP is also yield farming. So you get whatever the Frax is natively earning on Vesper, 5% or whatever. I think last I checked it was like 5. Just the Frax compound is 5.5%. So half of that is earning and yielding more tokens and then adding into the LP. And that's something I'm really excited about because like Curve, for example, as great as Curve is, there's so much idle capital, and the ROI on the TVL they have is so low. If they were using this as a standard, it would increase the revenue on their TVL by magnitudes. And it's not for the user, it's not exactly the same experience because you're getting this wrap token. There's an extra step involved. But if that was used at scale, it's easy enough to add a step in that's also going to unwrap it. 1inch can, integrate it or whatever. So that should be coming to market.
Wow.
Let's see, probably 2 or 3 weeks from today, just based on deployment timelines. And if people like that, that's ideally a test case for more pools we can create around Frax swap. Particularly.
Wait, so
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say particularly if you have earn pools that pay out in Frax tokens, you can have ETH Frax pairs or whatever Frax pairs that are also buying up more Frax while that liquidity is posted. So it's an easy win for increasing APY on an LP position. It's an easy win for supporting the Frax peg. It's a great experiment in positive sum Ponzi-nomics.
Ponzi.
Okay, so
I was going to say,
if I can. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. It'll be the same as if, let's say I took ETH and then I put it onto Compound and I got CETH, and then I paired CETH with, say, USDC. And then that is now my CETH is obviously earning yield on Compound, but it's also providing liquidity on the CETH USDC pool. Is that what it is?
Almost, but it's a little bit different because CETH is an interest-bearing token. So whatever the rate is between ETH and CETH, CETH is going to keep increasing.
Changes.
For a non-stable pair, that's not as big of a deal. But for example, if you're doing if you have a stable swap pair, and you want everything to track 1-to-1 or track to $1, that becomes it makes the product more obsolete over time, or lessened experience over time.
It's kind of like the geom then, right? Like that type of wrapper. So there's always 1-to-1, and it's never actually increasing in quantity.
Yes, I think. Yes, if I understand geom correctly.
So
cool.
Let's go back for a second.
Yeah.
So with the saddle pool, I want to make sure I get this right. It's half Frax, half Frax base pool. Is that Frax base pool being staked in convex or something earning yield, or
the Frax,
curve something earning yield?
The Frax half is being staked.
Frax half is being staked.
Yeah. So
okay.
the meta pool is actually wrapped Frax to Frax base pool.
Wrapped Frax.
And the wrapped Frax is the Vesper earn deposit token that's going out earning yield on convex and then converting the yield into Frax base pool LP shares.
Oh, okay. So the saddle pool is wrap Frax doing this Vesper strategy in one half, and the yield earned from that one half is being put into the Frax base pool on the other half.
Exactly.
Whoa. And so now you have this pool. I guess what is the advantage of this pool is the strategy that you can deploy? Do you see people actively trading this pool, or is this really a pool for strategists and DAOs?
It'll be a little bit of both. There will be trading activity. At the very least, there will be arbitrage, because the pool itself is earning and realizing the yield. So every time a rebalance happens and yield is earned, the number of Frax in the pool stays the same. The number of LP tokens increases. The Frax base will LP it's trading against. So Frax will blip above $1. So people at the very least will trade it back down to $1 and realize the arbitrage. But I think it's more important for someone like a Frax or an Olympus or some project that has very strong protocol-owned liquidity. Now it's protocol-owned liquidity that still does exactly what you need it to, exactly what you want it to, and it's earning revenue, or it's building up more LP for you.
Yeah, a lot of DAOs, if they have stable coins or looking for a choice of stable coins and they're looking for a strategy with their treasury, this sounds perfect. It sounds pretty. The only hard part is going through the steps to I wouldn't even call it hard, but just the only friction would be to actually stake the LP and do all the steps there. But once you do, then it's only logical for
exactly.
Sound treasury management. Cool. I wanted to bring it to your thoughts on, speaking of strategies, your thoughts on Fraxlend, and have you looked into that at all? What your thoughts are on Fraxlend, and if you see Vesper doing any strategies with that in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're really big on a lot of our TVL routes through different on-chain loans, because it's an easy way to get from a low yield opportunity token to a high yield opportunity token. Lending rates are typically pretty low on everything. And so, for example, we can take, right now we support Aave, Compound, Maker, a handful of Compound forks across Mainnet and Avalanche. And it's pretty easy for us to support new tokens when whatever supported collateral can borrow a stable coin for cheap, for example. The Vesper architecture is very composable into itself. If we have on any peer-to-peer lending market, if an output token, a token you can borrow, is supported by Vesper, we can now support any collateral token that they support by just routing a strategy that says for example, borrow Frax and then deposit into the Vesper Frax pool. So we can take all these different collateral tokens and just funnel it all with the same strategy into our Frax pool, into our USDC pool, into our, our whatever pool, and then manage all of those positions through the one pool. And so, if the yield's there, we're absolutely going to be farming on Fraxlend. If the deposit and borrow rates are competitive, and I'm sure they will be. Everything that comes out of Frax is very polished and very in tune with the market. So it's on our very long list of protocols we want to support. It's definitely there.
I just wanted to double click onto the risk element of your assessment of the strategies, right? Normally with Frax, you could, pretty much bank on the fact that the devs are like, SEAL Team 6 devs, that they went the extra mile to make sure it's safe and secure. Before like other, protocols and yield, like how do you go about risk assessing them?
Yeah, so there's a handful of different components into our risk assessment at different stages and in the earning yield process. One is we have risk parameters for the protocol itself that we interface with. So, for example, a Compound or an Aave or whoever we support, we look at things like time in market, TVL. We look at the auditing that went into those protocols. We look at the team. We look at how administrative privileges are delegated. So, for example, is this protocol DAO controlled by the token holders, like Compound is, where we don't really have to worry about a rogue governance type thing going through? Or is there one person who has the keys to the kingdom? And if that's the case, we probably don't interact with them. Then in terms of building out the strategy, we get 2 audits on every new strategy. Let's see, what's the right way to say it? Every time there's a new code base or we have a strategy where we're doing something new, we get 2 audits. So, for example, if something is a direct fork from Compound, we might not need to get a separate set of audits. But if they have different code changes or if we have to do something different, then we'll get audits on there. Or if we're building something new on top of an existing strategy set. From there, we have a pretty robust internal auditing process of running things on a local fork into running things on a mainnet dev only alpha into a public beta and then into a mainnet production. We also have different risk tiers on the pools themselves. We have conservative pools, aggressive pools, and orbit pools. Conservative pools are more so on the back burner because everything under Vesper, frankly, is conservative. But the differentiation between aggressive pools and orbit pools is orbit pools, we might handle more exotic assets. We might handle more exotic protocols. Aggressive pools are more battle hardened and they have more, they're all still very conservative, but the aggressive pools have more risk assurance for users. And then the last thing is that for strategies that are deployed, each pool is basically a front pool that maps to a library of back pool strategies. So essentially, when people deposit or when they deposit or withdraw, they go into this front pool lobby buffer, and then it maps to all these different strategies that have different weights assigned to them. And so we can feather up and feather down weights depending on where the yield's at. And with that, we have some automated monitoring that shows fluctuations in yield, just the absolute values of where's the high yield, where's the low yield. And also we get alerts if yield fluctuates. So if one strategy where we have a lot of our TVL, the yield's coming down, we're going to make sure that we don't let the yield get negative. We'll pull it out and pull into another strategy that we have deployed. So yeah, we have a very robust security practices in place. The last element that I talked about earlier is the composability. We're not reinventing the wheel on each new pool. We're taking contracts that we know works that we're already using, and we're funneling more activity into those same pools, those same contracts.
Got it. Do you guys have like a maximum limit on a strategy? Like, hey, we're only going to put X million or X percent of the Frax into this strategy. Like, do you have any of those parameters?
Yes, we do have those parameters. We don't always use them, but for example, if we are using a new protocol for the first time, we will start with a very small percentage of funds, like 2%, and make sure it's working, and then very slowly feather it up. Each pool has absolute limits that we can toggle. Right now, none of the pools have limits in place. And then each strategy has percent weight and absolute weight limits as well.
Got it. Do you guys split it across different chain? Are you guys multi-chain right now or mainly mainnet?
We are multi-chain, mostly mainnet and some Avalanche and a little bit of Polygon.
Got it. Do you guys have parameters around there? Like, hey, we're only going to keep X percent on Poly, X percent on Avalanche, and maintain liquidity at kind of like all times?
Yeah. So right now, the contracts on each protocol are on each chain are independent. So if I'm depositing to the Avalanche pool, I'm only interacting with Avalanche
Got
stuff.
it.
On our tech roadmap, we have some cross-chain strategies in the workings, and once that's deployed, it will look like that. Essentially, that we might take 20% of the ETH TVL and take it over from mainnet to Avalanche if the Avalanche APY is significantly higher, but also because of just being able to access liquidity, we would never say, okay, we're taking our entire pool on X chain and we're sending it all to Y chain.
Got it. And so what's your take on the emerging real yield trend that we see on Arbitrum? You see, Umami and GMX and now TracerDAO, now Mycelium in the ring with this one specific GLP strategy that's delta neutral. I guess, like, what do you think of that? And is like Vesper considering similar?
It's interesting. I mean, Vesper is definitely real yield, right? You're depositing whatever token you have, and you're earning more of it. It's not inflation that we've printed from nothing. We can't print wrapped Bitcoin and ETH and Frax and
Okay.
So like the products themselves are all real yield. They've been real yield from the start. We do have BSP incentives on top of that, but those incentives now across almost all pools are very small. A majority of the yield earned is underlying strategies. The VSP token itself, you can deposit and you can earn yield on it. That's a revenue share. So there's fees assigned to the pools, and some of those fees buy back VSP tokens and deliver it back to depositors. That's real yield as well. I understand there's in like the real yield messaging, there's some element of, like, for example, I know Joe's one of the big ones because you can deposit Joe and you can earn USDC. They're not paying you more Joe, they're paying USDC, but it's the same. The underlying message is we're paying you real revenue or real yield. We're not just inflating tokens and giving you free inflation. So it's like,
what are the fees?
It's interesting. Oh yeah. It's interesting that we've been a real yield protocol, but it's like, okay, are we supposed to like attach ourselves to this meme, or do we just keep doing what we're doing? It's like a weird marketing type consideration.
Do you want to attach yourself to this new meta that has appeared in the wild?
Do we want to play the metagame? But yeah, so it's a conversation that we had recently internally, and I'm sure one that will continue. In terms of the fees that we have, each pool has what we call a universal fee of 2%, and it's basically a fee that is streamed out of the yield earn only. So we never touch your principal ever. no deposit, no withdrawal fees, no set performance fees that could take into your principal. The universal fee of 2% is saying that we will stream yield as fees up to 2% APY, and we cap it at 50%. So if a pool is earning basically 4% is the inflection point. If a pool is earning 4% or more, we take an amount that's equal to 2% of the TVL streamed out of the yield. If it's less than 4%, we take half of whatever the pool earns.
Got it. And so you don't have like that. I haven't looked into Yearn in a while, but you know how Yearn charges like a performance fee? Do you guys have a performance fee or just the 2% universal?
Just the 2%. So Yearn has the 2% management and the performance fee on top, and there's no cap on the management fee. So if a pool's earning 2%, they're taking 2%. I know they're doing a lot of tokenomics revenue overhaul. They have a proposal. I don't know what stage it's at, but there's a revenue update proposal that looks a lot like what our new, because our universal fee is new within the past few months. They have a new revenue plan that looks a lot like what we recently put together.
They're
What
joining the Vesper meta. Okay, I got another question in terms of user behavior. Have you noticed? Sorry, Dave. This is just super fascinating to me. I'm just gonna ball hog for a sec.
No, this is like your court. This is like your specialty. So go off.
Yeah, for the user behaviors, have you noticed them kind of setting and forgetting, or are they kind of like jumping around a lot themselves even?
Yeah, good question. So when we first launched, people were definitely jumping around a lot, and that was when gas was still cheaper. This would have been January. We launched in January 2021. When we first launched, people were jumping around a lot. We were also offering really good yield because our emissions were really high and our token price was really high. What we saw was a lot of people were depositing when there was nothing to do, and something crazy came up. They would withdraw, go farm that thing for a week, and then come back. There was what was the name of the farm?
These hoes ain't loyal.
There was a farm. Yeah,
these degens ain't loyal.
Well, that's why no one does it. No one does the emissions farm anymore. But there was a protocol. I can't remember the name, but it was it got like 4 billion in TVL on like the first week, and like Alameda was farming it.
Oh wait! Big dump protocol. BDP.
Yeah, BDP.
Big data protocol.
Right? And it was like a complete dump.
Oh my god, I remember that.
So
that was so funny.
Yeah,
it was just a farm.
So we had when Big Data Protocol launched, and it was like it was just stupid, like the amount that they were paying out. We saw like half our TBL leave and start farming, like literally just withdraw from Vesper, deposit to Big Data Protocol, and then 4 days later when the yield dried out, they all came back, and a bunch more people came back too. We actually, over the course of the week, increased TVL from everyone leaving and then everyone coming back, which is actually something that we built around initially. Was we called it like Tavern for Degens. Like when there's nothing, like come here, rest, like let your coin sit easy.
I like that.
When you have like an adventure, when you have a quest, go out and quest and come back. But then gas got so high, and so people weren't really doing that anymore. Interest went way down. Now it's definitely much more of a set and forget type experience, which is more suited towards what I talked about originally. Right now, we're trying to target other protocols as our users, which is that sticky set and forget TVL.
Dude, I remember BDP because I was like X Sushi at the time, and like the X Sushi percentage went up from like 4% to like 16, like something ridiculous. It was just like, yeah, the farming days back then.
BDP.
BDP. I was gonna ask you how has like yield evolved over the past year? Do you see it trending down? Do you see it trending like sideways, trending up? Like, where's the yield nowadays on chain? Is there still yield? Is there still opportunities? Is it something more like for big players such as DAOs to take advantage of, or can like the little guy, the everyday humble farmer, take advantage of these opportunities on chain?
Yeah. So, I mean, throughout Vesper's existence, the yield has definitely decreased and it's definitely concentrated, but I don't think that's a permanent trend. Most of the yield from a year to 2 years ago was people farming ownership in projects. The notion that there's all these different forks and there's all these different projects launching, and this is a great way to get some early allocation. The project, as the markets have cooled off a lot and as VC money has winded down a lot, those same opportunities aren't there anymore, which has dragged the rest of the yield down. Today, most of the yield is in Curve Convex on stable coins, in Lido on E, and then in just like random boutique stuff. But there's a few trends coming in the opposite direction. I think over time we will, on a long enough time scale, I think yield will consistently, steadily increase for a few reasons. Protocols are getting more complex. Fork meta, if we want to call it a meta, means that every time the market determines there's like something interesting to build out, we're going to get 1,000 iterations of it, and we're going to get one of those iterations is going to be the best one, the most efficient, the most complex. I mean, Frax is a product of the 1,000 countless stablecoin forks, right? Frax survived, a handful of others survived, everything else died, and we have better stablecoins as a result. That's going to continue happening, and we're going to continue getting higher yield because there's better working complex projects that emerge from it. A trend that I'm seeing right now is leverage yield. Abracadabra, despite all their controversy, is really the leader there. If you forget MIM as a stablecoin and assess MIM as a synthetic collateral for leverage, the killer app with Abracadabra is their degen box, they call it, where basically I deposit $1 of some interest bearing position, like a Yearn Vault token or a Stargate LP token, and for every $1 I deposit, I can flash mint and dump up to 49 MIM, and now I have 50x leverage yield farming. They can take really huge performance fees out of that because, you know, they could take right now on Stargate they take a 50% performance fee, but they could take a 90% performance fee because out of the whatever the 4% APY Stargate gives you, they could take 90% of it, and they're going to give you 50x the 10% you have left. And so then the challenge is you have to maintain the MIM peg. If MIM's under $1, you can't provide additional leverage. There's an interesting mechanic of everyone shorting MIM who's doing it. So MIM's the peg is strong. You can take on a lot of leverage. The peg goes down to 99 cents. You can buy up a bunch of MIM, close out your position, and realize a huge APY. There's a lot of projects that are doing leverage yield farming. There's Timeless Finance out of 88 NPH. There is Gearbox. There is there's a bunch. I mean, Alchemix really is leverage yield farming with conservative leverage allowance. They just don't brand themselves as that. And so just down the leverage yield farm rabbit hole is now it's very easy to see a place where even if the naked yield on tokens on stable coins or ether leverage is going down to low single digits, they're bringing that back up into the teens and the 20s because they're able to figure out a way to work out leverage on that. So more and more stuff like that is going to continue to get built. That's going to continue to drive APY up. I also think the merge is going to be massive for increasing DeFi APY. And my thesis is inspired by what you see on Avalanche. Avalanche AVAX is a token that you can stake and you can get good APY. And that kind of drives all of Avalanche ecosystem APY up. It's a smaller DeFi landscape, but the yields there are all really good. It's because it's underpinned by a network token, AVAX, that is natively earning so much percent APY if you're staking it. With ETH, when we go to the merge, you're going to be getting whatever 4% on the low end. I've seen estimates that with tips and everything up to 18% on your ETH. I doubt that'll be the case, but you will have a network token that natively is earning good APY. It's very liquid through something like staked ETH. It's very integrated in staking positions are very integrated into DeFi applications like Aave, Maker, Curve, Convex. And with that, I think post-merge, you're going to have ETH pulling up the APY of everything else on the network. Because
Rising tide lifts all ships.
I really think so. So I think we might be at, call it these past 6 months, like the all-time low DeFi yield until the end of time, or at least, for the foreseeable future. I feel very strongly that yield's going to be going up. Obviously, I'm biased. I work for a project that delivers yield to people. So if I'm wrong, I'm in serious trouble. But I think the merge is going to be a massive event for DeFi, which I don't hear a lot of people talking about.
No, I don't. It's funny, like me and my friends have been talking, and one of my friends, he had this really interesting idea with Frax ETH and AMMs that you can have like a Frax ETH AMMO, and on this, parallel to it, you can have more experimental AMMs. And if the AMMs have a yield or a percentage that's lower than the Frax ETH AMMO, you can just close the AMMO and just like bring all the assets back into the Frax ETH one. So instead of what you're saying is, instead of at like the Frax protocol level with Frax ETH, this is just all of DeFi. Like this is like literally the baseline. Whatever the average ETH yield is the baseline till the end of time.
Yeah, exactly. Or some derivative of that, because you're going to be able to borrow ETH, and you're going to be able to use ETH as collateral to borrow other stuff, yada, yada, yada. There's going to be a lot of new yield opportunities. And I think that if that is the case, then maybe we have a very strong DeFi rally powered by higher yield for everyone. Now all these tokens are going up, all these revenues are going up, and we could have another flywheel kicking off with that 4% whatever that's underpinning. Now Frax is popping off. Now the Frax ecosystem APYs are popping off. Now the Vesper APYs are popping off. It's all, things are much more integrated than they were the first time around. We could definitely see everything popping off together and making everything pop off higher and harder and longer. And yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, especially with Fraxlend coming out, like all the different, you can basically build a degen box with Fraxlend itself. It's going to be interesting what like people come up with Fraxlend, especially with its customizability. And, it's not necessarily like over collateralized. You could have fixed maturity dates. You can do a bunch of different things. So, I feel like, I'm biased obviously for Frax, but like Frax is positioning itself to really take advantage of, this base yield that you talked about with ETH staking, and then having all the financial tools to like get the most capital efficiency, the most bang for your buck, bang for your Frax.
I'm just thinking here. It's like,
no, I feel very, very confident in DeFi, as we know, as a perma-bull tard. But
we're definitely bull tards the past 2 years.
I know. I feel like, okay, let me be the bear here and ask a question of how. So when I think of this new native yield on the staked ETH, right? We're gonna coin it here first. That's gonna be the real yield. That's gonna be the real yield. Exactly. But
baseline
how
yield.
Does ETH having a higher baseline yield forces all of DeFi to also go up? And you can't just inflate your way into a higher APR, right? It has to come, like real yield needs to still carry out. Like how do you see, like, walk me through the mechanics of how a higher ETH base yield would lead to a higher, Frax vault yield or what have you?
Sure. Yeah. So let me give one example. Take a maker vault, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Maker offers very low interest rates, kind of because they have to. You can borrow on ETH, and the lowest vault rate is like 0.5 or 0.75% or something very low.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's on an ETH that earns you nothing. Now, if you're on an ETH that earns you 6% APY, now you're borrowing. Your tolerance for interest rates should increase. And it's kind of, I don't think a 6% ETH means everything gets 6%, but I think it does mean that people who are doing DeFi and who are doing yield that's based around ETH, now they have more tolerance for spending more money doing other stuff to up their total APY. For example, if I want to go on a leveraged long because I'm an ETH bull, I could borrow DAI, or I could borrow Frax, or I could borrow, whatever, and buy more ETH. And now I'm leveraged long on ETH because I want to be, and I'm also earning really good APY as long as I don't get liquidated, of course. And so there's like just those opportunities exist, and those opportunities are already built into the DeFi landscape, and it'll just immediately it'll happen.
So you're saying basically because I am earning 6% yield on my collateral, I'm willing to pay more on the borrow side because I'm earning 6.
Exactly.
And that
now,
that would lift all of the demand. Okay.
Exactly. And there's also even people who are doing stuff outside of DeFi. If I'm taking out a loan for like real reasons, instead of being comfortable taking out a 1% loan on collateral that's earning me nothing, now my collateral is earning me 6%. Maybe I'm comfortable taking up to 4%. That kind of thing. There's so many different user stories where now we can understand where people would pay more interest or where protocols would generate more revenue, because a big component of what everyone's doing, the base network token, is now natively yield bearing. And natively in quotes, right? You're still got to stake your ETH. You're still going to have to play around with liquid staking curves. But I mean, Lido staked ETH is so integrated into the DeFi ecosystem already. I think it'll only become more integrated. I think there'll be more liquid staking curves that will also become more integrated. It won't be hard to to liquefy your ETH staking position, keep the yield on it, and do DeFi stuff with it.
Yeah, I actually tweeted this out earlier today. I think the same way everybody hopped on the VE tokenomics train after Frax, people are going to hop on the Frax ETH, the Lido, like staking ETH game after the merge, and when staking becomes a thing, and once it becomes more than obvious. I think we all see it. We see like, okay, like ETH yield, that's going to be like the baseline for all of DeFi and for all of like, I guess like Web3 in a sense. And like once other protocols realize that, they're going to like, wait a second, we need to come up with our own staking nodes and own like staking validators and stuff like that. And I feel like there's going to be like a real rush to do that. And whether they're going to do it like themselves or do it through Lido or through Frax ETH, that is I guess like a future meta that like may or may not happen. Who knows? But like, we'll see.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if all of this stuff is true, you're also going to have a much higher on-chain activity, which means higher fees, which means higher APY, higher gas, which means higher APY to the validators, because they're confirming the transactions, they're getting more tips. I mean, we very well could see just some insane self-fulfilling prophecy. ETH is pumping. Yeah, ETH is pumping because APY is pumping, because DeFi is pumping. It could happen.
It could happen, yeah. And like one of my other favorite real yield opportunities on chain is options and like options premiums and stuff. And like even having like yield coming from over there on top of like the yield coming from ETH, it really doesn't take that long to have this like massive like snowball effect where it's like, hey, this is its own, like life on chain is its own self-sufficient machine that that doesn't really need the emissions that existed 2 years ago.
Exactly. There's many more DeFi products today that are good enough to have users, and they don't really need any emissions at all.
Yeah. Actually, like, if people don't have any more like comments or questions about DeFi and yield, I would love to get your takes on DAOs and like going into like your DAO knowledge a bit more. I feel like that's like the part of the Web3 Trinity that like we'll hit last.
Yeah, definitely. So outside of Vesper, I'm the co-founder of a project called Governor DAO. We are a fair launch DAO built around the thesis that decentralization done right is really good. It's hard to do it right, and we help projects do it. That looks like kind of a smorgasbord of consulting style. Will help you with your governance, will help you with your tokenomics, will help launch your smart contracts. We also have some proprietary build outs and problems that a lot of people see. We have a Sybil resistance product that lets you human gate your project for democratic voting or whatever. That's the elevator pitch. But the reason why I got involved with Governor DAO is that I've always been enamored with the prospect of what a true DAO standard would look like. My background in DAOs as DAO academia is actually a very interesting foundation. I got really into DAOs through an economics course I was taking in college, Marxist economics. And I got really into DAOs because I wrote a final report on the Marxist assessment of cryptocurrency. Basically, is there some angle of crypto that makes sense from a Marxist point of view? And I got onto DAOs as the end-all be-all, not because DAOs are socialist utopia, but the notion of Marxism as Marxism versus capitalism is a competition between different ways to produce different outputs. And Marxism on paper is great and it makes people feel connected to their work, but capitalism doesn't care about your feelings. The reason why this ties into DAOs is because the problem with why we're all capitalists and not socialists is because the capitalist urge to drive your marginal cost as close to zero as possible, to scale, to produce, to outcompete. That's not something that a socialist co-op can compete with. Now, in a working DAO model, you have this entirely different way, different from both socialism and capitalism. You have this way to produce where people opt in to get behind the things they enjoy. A lot of what is done is automated in code. A lot of the input costs in terms of expensive and human, not perfect executives or managers or whatever, that gets replaced by the smart contract itself, or it gets replaced by people who opt in to participate in this DAO. They don't need to earn a salary because they are owners of the group, and their good work translates to a better investment. We're a long ways away from DAOs being able to outproduce a standard corporation, at least in the real world. Maybe there's some different scenarios in crypto where you could make that argument, but I think we definitely will see that in the future. I think once people get the formula right, if people can get the formula right, a well-oiled DAO should always outcompete a well-oiled corporation 10 times out of 10, because it's a smarter, more effective approach to production as a whole. If someone gets that formula right, it's going to totally change the entire way the world operates. And it's going to be, in my opinion, my biggest crypto thesis is that DAOs can enable post-capitalist future, whatever that looks like, the DAOist future, so to speak. That's something that's probably decades away. But if the values of the DAO can actually be created in real life, if it can actually work the way people want it to work, it is, in my opinion, the best response to something that works better than a corporation and feels better than a corporation, which socialism, Marxism, it just feels better than a corporation. It's not going to outcompete. So I'm I'm totally pie in the sky on DAOs. People, it's kind of a mixed bag in crypto space today, but I mean, that's DAOs today. I don't think DAOs today are great. I think most DAOs today absolutely suck. One person, one group needs to get it right, and there's thousands of people trying it. One person's going to get it right.
There's all these different experiments.
There's all these different experiments.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, have you thought about what goes into this formula for, like, the 0 to 1 DAO that is, like, not only like feels better than a corporation in traditional structure, that actually is? Like, do you think there are like elements that have been gotten right before, and do you see like these elements like mostly on chain or off chain or both?
I think the biggest thing for me is that Taoism is a spectrum, the same way that decentralization is. Too often people misconstrue it as an either or. You're centralized or not. You're a DAO or you're not. And in the DAO conversation, it's like you're either a kumbaya circle or you're an absolute dictatorship. Realistically, there's this entire universe of ways to organize in between, and somewhere is the optimal way. I think early on in DAOs, in the 0 to 1 phase, there needs to be some planned obsolescence of leadership, meaning that in the 0 to 1 phase, you really do still need to have some people who are manning the helm, who have the vision, they have the passion, they know what to do, and they execute it. Do that with some plan to iteratively transfer ownership and responsibility and distribute and decentralize over time once you're at 1, to get from 1 to 100. I think too often is DAOs try to get it perfect right at the start. And perfect decentralization is a privilege for very well-established, mature organizations of all kinds, DAOs or otherwise. So yeah, I think there's more pragmatic approaches that some projects are exploring, of having clearly well-defined leadership and responsibility and administrative privilege, a plan for alleviating them, and also a system where token holders have some say over what that leadership looks like without being the leaders themselves. So, like, for example, like, you don't want 1,000 token holders to be responsible for, like, whatever, creating your business plan. You want one expert to do that, but you can have the 1,000 token holders assess whether they did a good job or not. Or if over the course of several months, the person who said they were going to do this stuff did actually do this stuff. And if they fail to get approval, having some structured replacement plan. Basically, at least in Governor DAO, something we're building towards is having clearly defined administrative or responsibilities, and having clearly defined processes for token holders to either thumbs up or thumbs down the people in those positions at recurring intervals. Yeah, I think understanding that a DAO doesn't have to be a kumbaya circle, and figuring out what that perfect what that perfect balance is, and maybe it starts closer to a dictatorship and it ends closer to a kumbaya circle. Projects that are doing that well, I think, will have a huge impact on the space.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about what Joe DeLong said during his ETH Denver speech about, like, hierarchies form naturally whether you like it or not, and when you don't have hierarchies, that's when, like, maybe, like, not the best actors go and take the place of leadership. So I think, like, this idea of, like, kumbaya is not only, like, impossible, but could be even harmful. Like, in the beginning, you need, like, you know, a leadership with set direction, and, like, hierarchy is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, hierarchy is just how people organize themselves and how nature organizes itself. So it's like things aren't a free for all. There's, like, a flow of direction. And, like, I think it's really important that the hierarchies are fluid, especially if like somebody's not doing their job, like there's like the proper like, you know, levels and like procedures to like replace them and whatnot. Is there, I guess, like, how have you like structured Governor DAO? Like how are you like building Governor DAO in this direction of like, you know, the perfect DAO, quote
Yeah.
unquote?
So, you know, a lot of where we're at and where we're going with Governor DAO is working back from initially launching as Let's Be a Kumbaya Circle, because I didn't know any better. We didn't know any better. Understanding that you really do need to have some people who are taking the reins, myself and others. And a lot of what we're building towards is building stuff that will live without us into the future. So, for example, we have our flagship technology, proof of existence. That's the anon Sybil resistance universal solution where you sign up once, and then any protocol, any contract, any developer, whatever that wants to human gate or limit something to one per person or whatever, they just check for which wallets have signed up. We have that now built where people can register and enroll totally automatic. We don't have to do anything. You go in, you sign up. We have bots that process the registration, and then in intervals pass a transaction on chain. They pass a Merkle route. They compile the recent signups into a Merkle route, pass it on chain, and then those people go back and mint their own token. The token holders, right now it's free to sign up, but eventually the token holders, the Governor DAO token holders, they'll be able to vote to set their own monetary policy there. And there's also a referral aspect of it. So Governor DAO token holders can refer people once it costs money, refer their friends to sign up, get a split of the revenue. And they're also voting on how much it costs to sign up. They're voting on a price curve or a set price or yada, yada, yada. Trying to build as much as we can like that, where stuff can just exist on its own and the token holders on their own can interact with it as much as they want. That's a big focus for what we're doing. Some of the stuff.
So like building.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Some of the stuff is going to have to stay with privileged responsibilities. Working with new projects and hopping on phone calls and working out, you know, legal details and stuff like that. That has to be someone who's done it a whole bunch of times. But the next element is, once we better formalize what all of these different roles are going to be into the future, one day down the road, I would love Governor to be in a position where everything is voted or elected upon, or people have reviews, you know, more so like a traditional corporation, I guess, where you have like a board of directors who the CEO, right? The CEO's boss is the board of directors, and the board of directors determines whether they're doing a good job or not, or whether they replace them. Same with some of the other executive leadership. The token holders should have that responsibility to say, am I doing a good job or am I doing a bad job? We want to replace Jeff, and this is who we want to replace him with. I think that's the last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this idea of governance minimization and creating products and like protocols and primitives that can basically live on without the original builders, that just kind of exist in sort of like a public goods capacity that anybody can like utilize for, you know, however they want. And like you said, it's definitely a spectrum. Like some things like they can just live on, but like other things need to be more hands-on, like especially like business development and like reaching out and marketing, and like, you know, you need some voices out there to like get people to know what's going on, especially whether it's with like Governor DAO or with us like Frax DAO and whatnot. Kiet, what are your thoughts? I know DAOs aren't really your area, Kiet, but like, what are your thoughts on like this conversation so far?
Man, I always come back to like, just do the work. Meaning like,
just do the work.
I always just do the work. Like DAOs, like regardless, for example, Fraximulus in this Flywheelpod, right? Like, I didn't really care that it was a DAO or not a DAO, but I know that Frax, which I really believed in its product, its stablecoin, and I do know that kind of marketing and communication is not its greatest strengths. So I'm gonna step up and do something about it. So I'm just gonna do the work.
Yeah.
And that's the approach I take. And a lot of the, you know, big brain philosophical concepts of how the DAO should work and how human organization or coordination should work. I'm just gonna let that play out. And I feel like folks who do the work is going to prove out that model anyways.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my take for it.
Yeah, it's like a difference between like people that are in the world of theory and academia and like, oh, like how should a DAO ought to look like this and that, like how, but like, and then actually like in practice and like, okay, like how does a DAO actually function? How do you like decide where funds are dispersed? That's actually like what the state does. The state decides where resources are directed. The DAO decides where its treasury is directed. You know, and it's interesting to see the beginnings of like how like every community and every DAO is different. You know, my personal experience being a protocol politician of sorts, first at Gelato trying to get things approved, and then within the Frax community, every community is different. You have to there's you know, certain like stakeholders and people that hold more power than others, whether they're like influential members within the community, like whether they're like super active on message boards or like, you know, they just hold like a large bag and this and that. But like all in all, what matters most is like people just care and people are just like thinking long term and building for the future. And you know, it doesn't really, you know, in the beginning, like it's all about like doing the work. And like once you have like a proper foundation, whether it's like 10 people or 100 people working on it, like that's when like things can really bloom and blossom.
Yeah, I agree. I just
Yeah,
also feel like DAO
Yeah.
cannot operate on a volunteer basis. You know, like if you do it on a volunteer basis, you're gonna get volunteer level type of results. And
Yeah.
that's why I really like the grant
Yeah.
stuff that the DAOs do. Like you kind of got to pay people for their work and their time, you know, but you can also expect people to just work for fun. I feel like a large trend in DAOs is like you have a new community member come in, they're highly motivated, they crush us for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they kind of fizzle out. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that potential could be channeled better, managed better, and just really put it into more productive efforts.
Yeah, I mean that's among
Yeah.
the open problems that someone's going to get it right, and then everyone's going to know how to do it. I don't know if
Yep.
there's a great example just yet.
Just yet, but maybe soon.
Just yet.
Yeah, just like either in
yet.
DeFi or NFTs,
Yeah.
like first slowly, then all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're reaching the end of this Flywheel edition, and we'd like to do like a little bit of a, you know, rapid fire
Lightning
questions
round.
to
Yes.
with every guest. Lightning
Okay.
round.
I'll go.
Your
I'll
lightning round.
try to keep my comments short.
All right. So first question is, when did you first touch the chain? What was your virgin crypto experience? Sexes don't count.
Yeah, August 2013, I found out about a Minecraft casino that used Bitcoin as the currency, and I found out you could gamble online when you're 15 years old, and no one asked you how old you were.
DJ. Wow.
Yeah.
Literally almost a decade ago.
Almost a decade ago. Yeah.
Wow. Max DJ. Okay.
Um,
Second question. Dave, you want to go?
Yeah. So, what is your biggest regret on chain? Or biggest regret, like in your decade-long experience in this game?
Oh man, that is a tough one. Also, I bought a. I mean, I don't know if this is really a regret, but it's the best thing I can think of. I bought my first computer with Bitcoin in 2015, and that's I have it sitting over there collecting dust. It's my $100,000 computer.
Oh,
It was-
wow.
Nice.
I bought it when Bitcoin was like $250 when I bought it.
Did you get it with your Minecraft casino winnings?
Some Minecraft casino winnings that I converted into poker gains, some miscellaneous freelance work for crypto.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Really
Okay.
you were living on the Bitcoin blockchain.
I was.
You really were. Okay. And then I guess the other question is, If you weren't working in crypto, what would you be doing instead?
The only other job I've had was DoorDash. I might go back to doing that. It was a good time.
Yeah, bear market blues.
I don't know if I have many skills that translate outside of crypto. I think I'd just be depressed.
Yeah. So outside of crypto, what do you like to do in your free time?
I love to surf. My girlfriend lives here close to me in LA. We go surfing a lot. I like to play video games. Sure, that's a common answer. And I'm a big foodie. I like to try different restaurants. I like to cook when I get the time. Yeah, that's about it.
What's your favorite restaurant in LA, or a restaurant in LA that you really liked recently?
I really like Wabi on Rose. It's close by to us here. Have you been? Have you guys been?
Wabi
No.
on Rose?
Yeah.
No,
I
not
want
yet.
to.
It's like a posh, modern fusion sushi type place, but it's very good. Big fan.
Okay, Wabi
I
on
went to this
Rose,
place
we'll
called
do that.
Benny's the other day. That was like a fusion place. That was good.
In a similar vein,
Maybe we should have the.
yeah. I mean, I'm
Go
down
ahead.
to try
Similar
Venice. In
vein.
a similar vein, Bell's Beach House. Have you guys been there? Under the Venice side.
Yeah, I think it was Bell. Was that near the Bright Moments?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I went. Not Benny's, Bell's.
Okay. Yeah, Bell's is my other favorite restaurant. I'm
Yo,
always up to go to Bell's.
dude, I'm down.
Okay. I've
Dude,
never
they
been
had
to
the best
either of those.
caramelized onion burgers.
Chef Frax, let's meet up at Bell's.
Done.
Dude, I'm down. Let's plan it out. All right. Well, Green Jeff, thank you for coming on. It's been a really knowledgeable hour. I feel like we've really covered all the trifecta
Yeah.
of Web3 here, and we're excited to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me,
dude.
guys.
That was awesome. Peace, man.
Peace.
Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, that was the conclusion of another episode of Flywheel with Mr. Green Jeff, where we go into everything Web3, from DeFi to NFTs to DAOs. And Kiet, do you have any final thoughts?
Like I said, man, my favorite parts is when I can get, in the weeds in the DeFi with the the guests coming on, and they actually kind of matches our enthusiasm, but also our knowledge about the space. And I really think the Vesper is lucky to have Green Jeff on their team.
Yeah, I know you were excited. I know I took a step back and just like let you and Jeff just go off on the numbers. I'm just like, all right, hands off the wheel here. I'll wait to be a word cell later when we get into DAOs. And, I really enjoyed that part. I'm really excited to see, how people think of this episode. And we encourage people to like leave their comments on either in the comment section on YouTube or on Twitter. Like, we always love to get a conversation going. And that's it for this time. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Flywheelpod. Same thing with Telegram. You can follow me on Twitter at DeFi Dave 22.
You can follow me on Twitter at 0x_K, and then we'll see you next week.
See you next time. Fuck.
Peace.